Okay, so it's just going to be about news. All of this, whether it's agriculture, it will just be news-based.
It'll be features, it'll be features, it'll be, life stories, amuse me stories, educate me stories, just anything that we feel will appeal to our audience, to our target audience.
Mm-hmm. So what's the age bracket you're targeting?
Well, I mean, so for the Pigeon service, which we launched last year, I think the age bracket was between 18 and 35. Yoruba and Igbo is a slightly older audience, slightly more conservative audience. So we're looking at maybe 25 to 45. But because we're also going to be doing stories about technology, science, entrepreneurship, we're hoping that we'll also, begin to draw a younger audience as well. Don't forget that according to the United Nations, Igbo by 2050 will be one of the dying languages of the world. And this has to be prevented. So you have to prevent that. You have to get young people to, speak the language, to re-engage with the language, and hopefully by bringing BBC Igbo on board, people will now begin to see that, oh, it's actually cool for us to speak our languages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how many languages does the BBC broadcast in?
Oh, gee, we have about,
okay, maybe we should start
over
from
40.
Africa.
So okay, so this new expansion that we're doing right now, it's so in 2016, the British government gave the BBC, quite a bit of money, about £291 million, and said, "Go ye forth and multiply." So the BBC decided to come up with 12 new language services across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Of those 12, 6 are in Africa, 3 are in the Horn of Africa, and then 3 in Nigeria. So that was Pidgin, Igbo, and Yoruba. But we already had some. So we had Hausa, like you mentioned earlier. We had BBC Swahili. We had BBC Kinyarwanda from the Great Lakes region.
But these are mostly radio.
Well, they're mostly radio, but all of them now have a TV content, a TV news bulletin that sits on YouTube. Then there's also BBC French for Africa. So, but generally in all, across the whole world, I think the number is now around 43 or 44 language services. When I joined the BBC 14 and a half years ago, it was 27. So it's a huge leap.
Mm-hmm.
So what determines your choice of partners?
You mean local partners?
The local partners.
Well, nothing really. I mean, as long as you're willing to work with us, as long as you're reputable, as long as you are, you espouse the values of journalism that the BBC does as well. We know that there are broadcast organizations in Nigeria who lean this way or that way politically. Because we don't, have any
political
leanings, we will not work with those people. So those people who do not have any particular political leanings, I mean, we're not criticizing them, but that's part of our own values. So those are the kind of people that we'll work with, yeah.
So I'm sure some people are watching now and maybe broadcast, okay, BBC, and they're wondering, human resource requirements, mm-hmm. How have you been able to take care of that?
Well, I mean, it's very, very interesting, and that's one thing I'm really thankful about over the last 4.5 months that I've been here. We've employed about 60 or 70 young Nigerian journalists in the last year and a half. And in that last 5 months or so, I've been involved in the training of them. And, it's been very fulfilling, trying to, these journalists of, different lengths of experience and all that, trying to change their mind, well, not exactly change their mindset, but trying to bring them around to the way the BBC does its own kind of reportage. So it's been great. I've loved it. I mean, we've got a team of very enthusiastic, very, they've got great ideas, journalists who, they're just brilliant to work with, and I like I told them, just seeing them now at this stage just reminds me of when I started about 26 years ago. It's just great that they're eager to learn, they snap up everything that you teach them and all that, and I know some of them are going to have great careers ahead of them.
Mm. Mm. Now, some very young people are watching now and they're thinking, okay, BBC, yes, I've heard about it, but it started 1922.
Yeah, was it 1928 or something? I think we're about 93 or 94 years old now, or something like that.
Okay, so tell us a bit about, just so you can, tell the younger ones.
Well,
about
I mean, the BBC basically is the world's foremost broadcaster. Whether it's radio, whether it's TV. We are a people-owned radio station in the sense that the BBC is the license fee. So in the UK, everybody has to pay a TV license fee if you own a TV or a radio or a computer. And it's that money that funds the BBC. So we're funded by the public, so we're not we're not beholden to any political party or to any government, but to the people. That's when I was mentioning the fact that we actually try to broadcast on the straight and narrow. We're only beholden to the people of the UK, and then we get some extra funding like we just did in 2016, which allows us to broadcast to the rest of the world. So we broadcast in almost every single territory in the world at the moment. And like I said, we have an audience of over 340 million every week. So, I'm really proud to be working there. I mean, I walk into the office every day and I'm like, wow. So it's great, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, okay, so if you've been training these people on how the BBC operates, but they're going to be broadcasting in Yoruba or Hausa or Igbo, but you speak neither of these languages. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm also assuming that there are other people out there who would want to come onto these platforms and listen to the news or watch the news, as the case may be. Would there be some kind of translation on this?
So I mean, everything is done in the languages. So I mean, we had a lot of consultation in the last year and a half. So we've been to University of Nigeria and Nsukka, spoken to some professors of Igbo, University of Lagos, some universities in the southwest here, spoken to some professors of Yoruba, who continuously come in, to check the work we're doing, to make sure that the language is standardized, to make sure that the nuances in both languages are well caught and well thought out, because you don't want, the last thing you want is for somebody to say, hey, Igbo man don't come, he can't do it properly.
Yeah, talking about that.